Our story takes place in Shanghai City. Tall buildings and busy streets stretch across the cityscape, with mountains rising in the background. Beyond the city, the ocean sparkles under the sunlight, giving the whole scene a lively and peaceful atmosphere. In a quiet room filled with soft daylight, a young mother sat on the edge of the bed, gently cradling her baby, Xiao Chen, in her arms. As she watched him peacefully feed, she couldn't help but smile with both love and weariness. She softly thought about how lucky her child was, able to drift into sleep as soon as his stomach was full. She felt a pang of envy, admitting to herself that she had lost countless nights of rest while caring for him. Yet, despite her exhaustion, her eyes carried warmth as she looked down at her little one. The young mother gazed down at her child with soft, tired eyes, a gentle smile forming on her lips. Despite the sleepless nights and endless care, her heart was full of warmth. To her, all the exhaustion meant nothing. As long as her little one could grow up healthy and strong, every sacrifice she made was worth it. The baby lay in his mother's arms, drinking milk, while his tiny body absorbed warmth and energy. Bright letters floated in the air. Energy +1, energy +1, energy +1, as if every sip carried hidden power. Inside, however, the child's thoughts were far from ordinary. He realized with startling clarity that he had been reincarnated. Though now only a newborn with a brain not yet fully developed, his mind carried the awareness of another life. The newborn lay in his crib, tiny eyes widening as glowing words appeared before him like a system window. Name: Xiao Chen. Age: 33 days. Biological level: ordinary tier 1. Biological attribute: none. Even though his body was weak and undeveloped, the baby realized something shocking. He wasn't ordinary at all. Deep inside, he carried a hidden cheat ability. At 3 months old, little Xiao Chen lay in his crib, happily kicking his legs. His mother, Zhang Wangshan, watched him with gentle eyes, praising how quiet and easy he was to care for. Unlike many babies, he rarely cried or fussed, making things much easier for her. Beside her, his father, Lin Yansheng, looked down proudly. He was convinced that his son was physically gifted. With such potential, he believed Zichen would one day grow into someone powerful, perhaps a great gene fuser, and even in the worst case, he thought, their boy would at least have the strength to become a cyborg. At only 3 months old, Xiao Chen had already triggered his very first system achievement. After kicking his legs a total of 10,000 times, a glowing message appeared before him. Achievement: kicked legs a cumulative 10,000 times. Reward: granted. Acquired biological attribute: use and advance. Use and advance. By continuously training the same part of the body, that part would grow endlessly stronger, though still bound by the limits of a carbon-based life form. Lying in his crib, the infant could clearly feel it. His strength was gradually increasing, little by little. Through sheer repetition, the hidden skill was already shaping his tiny body. As Xiao Chen lay in his crib, his tiny fists clenched, his mind wandered to his father's words. Gene fusers? Cyborgs? He couldn't help but wonder what exactly they were. In his imagination, figures appeared, heroes and warriors with strange powers. Were they like Spider Dude, he thought, picturing a fiery fighter leaping through the air? Or maybe Iron Guy. Another image surfaced, a man clad in metal armor with glowing weapons at his command. The baby's face remained serious, but inside, curiosity burned as he tried to piece together the kind of world he had been born into. At just 4 months old, Xiao Chen had already mastered sitting up and crawling. But to keep his astonishing progress a secret, he only dared to train in the quiet of night, away from his parents' eyes. As he crawled across the floor, glowing messages appeared before him. You are crawling. Vitality +1. Body coordination +1. Crawling proficiency +1. Each movement made him stronger, his small body steadily growing beyond the limits of an ordinary infant. By the time Xiao Chen reached 5 months old, he was already taking confident steps on his own. Each movement brought a surge of growth, and glowing words appeared before him. You are walking. Vitality +1. Body coordination +1. Walking proficiency +1. Most infants could barely crawl at this age, but he had already mastered walking, proving just how extraordinary his abilities were. At 6 months old, Xiao Chen sat between his parents on the couch, appearing like an ordinary baby to their eyes. Unlike before, he no longer needed to hide every bit of progress. Now, he could finally sit up and crawl in front of them without raising suspicion. For his parents, it was just normal growth, but for him, it was the careful balance of showing enough to seem natural while concealing the true extent of his abilities. While Xiao Chen sat between his parents on the couch, the television screen showed a news anchor delivering a serious report, a story about aberrant beasts. Gene fusers and cyborgs are joining forces to fight against them. For the first time, Xiao Chen truly understood that the world he had been reborn into was not the same Earth he once knew. This Earth had changed, mutated into something far more dangerous. From its depths emerged terrifying unknown creatures, unlike anything from his previous life. These monstrous beings were given a name that struck fear into all who heard it: aberrant beasts. To survive against the aberrant beasts, humanity had spent decades forging new paths of power. One of these paths was mechanical ascension, transforming the human body with advanced technology. Those who chose this way became cyborgs, warriors enhanced with metal and machinery, wielding strength and weapons far beyond human limits. With their mechanical bodies, they stood at the front lines, using technology itself to battle the monstrous threats. The second path humanity created was far more dangerous and wild: gene fusion. Through advanced genetic modification, humans fused their own DNA with that of aberrant beasts. By doing so, they inherited fragments of the beast's terrifying powers, transforming into warriors who wielded supernatural strength and abilities. These fighters, known as gene fusers, embodied the concept of using magic to fight against magic. With beastly might burning within them, they stood as a balance to the cyborgs, each path pushing humanity's limits in different ways. Xiao Chen's big eyes shone with determination as he clenched his tiny fists. He knew the world outside was filled with danger: aberrant beasts, cyborgs, and gene fusers. But unlike others, he wasn't helpless. He had been reborn with his very own system. As long as he grew steadily, stayed cautious, and evolved step by step, he was confident he could survive, and one day thrive, in this perilous world. Just then, Xiao Chen's ears perked up as the doorbell rang, the sound echoing through the house. His wide eyes blinked with curiosity, his small head turning toward the noise. At the door stood a young woman with long dark hair and glasses, holding a small gift bag in her hand. She wore a warm smile as she introduced herself. "Hello, my name is Shu Meng. I'm your new neighbor. I live right next door, and I've brought a housewarming gift." Xiao Chen's mother, Zhang Wangxin, greeted her politely at the doorway, marking the beginning of a new acquaintance for the family. Standing beside Shu Meng was her family. With a gentle smile, she introduced them warmly. "These two are my husband, Shen Jianye, and my daughter, Shen Qinghan. It's a pleasure to meet you." Her husband held their little girl in his arms, a child with bright eyes and twin buns in her hair, curiously peeking out from his embrace. This meeting marked the first connection between the two families. At just 7 months old, Xiao Chen met the first friend of his new life, Shen Qinghan. The two babies looked at each other with innocent curiosity, unaware of the significance of this moment. This girl became Xiao Chen's very first friend in this new world. At that moment, he had no way of knowing that their fates would one day intertwine so closely. At just 7 months old, Xiao Chen was already showing signs of extraordinary growth. He dashed across the room with surprising speed for a baby his age, his tiny legs carrying him forward with determination. Each step strengthened his body, sharpening his coordination and boosting his running speed and technique. When he leapt into the air, even his jumps carried energy, further enhancing his vitality. Xiao Chen's training didn't stop at running. At only 7 months old, he was already leaping into the air with surprising force. Each jump strengthened his tiny legs, building muscle and endurance. His height increased bit by bit, and his movements became more refined with every attempt. By the time Xiao Chen reached 7 months, his growth had already far surpassed that of a normal child. Through constant training and the mysterious skill Use and Advance, he had not only mastered running and jumping, but had also begun to form words. His ability to express himself and grasp language developed at an astonishing pace. By the time Xiao Chen reached 8 months old, his growth had taken yet another extraordinary leap. While most infants struggled to crawl or balance, he was already performing sit-ups and push-ups with steady strength. Each repetition strengthened his vitality and built his abdominal muscles, refining his body far beyond what anyone would expect of a child his age. Xiao Chen had always trained in secret, pushing his tiny body far beyond its limits whenever his parents weren't around. It was the only way to hide his unnatural growth. But secrets never last forever. On that day, the unexpected happened. His mother walked in just as he was in the middle of his training. Zhang Wangxin froze at the doorway, utterly stunned by the sight before her. Her baby, only 8 months old, was performing sit-ups with perfect form, as though he had been training for years. Shock and disbelief rushed through her as she rubbed her eyes, wondering if she was seeing things. But when she looked again closely, Xiao Chen quickly fell asleep, pretending as if nothing had happened. Seeing this, Zhang Wangxin thought it was an illusion, thinking she had been so wrapped up in her novel writing lately. This must just be a stress-induced hallucination, convincing her mind that what she saw was nothing more than imagination. A few days later, the household was thrown into chaos once again. While giving Xiao Chen a bath, Zhang Wangxin's shocked cry echoed through the house. She quickly called Xiao Chen's father and told him that something huge had happened. Her husband, Lin Tianming, rushed in, panic written across his face. "What is it, dear?" With trembling hands, Zhang Wangxin pointed at their son sitting in the wooden tub, foam bubbling around him. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, asking him, "How does our Xiao Chen already have abs at just 8 months old?" Lin Tianming began piecing things together in his mind. His son already had an unusually large appetite, and now, at only 8 months old, he even had visible abs. The thought struck him like a flash of lightning, and his eyes lit up with sudden realization. In that moment, he understood. Perhaps their son was no ordinary child at all, but a rare prodigy, 1 in a million. Lin Tianming looked at his son with pride shining in his eyes. In his mind, Xiao Chen's future seemed dazzling. Surely, the boy was destined to become a powerful gene fuser, and at the very least, he would grow into a capable cyborg. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen's hidden thoughts told a different story. His secret had nearly been exposed, but fate had given him cover. His father, a web novel author, had conveniently spun the idea of Xiao Chen being a natural-born genius. In that moment, the boy realized how fortunate he was. Having 2 web novelist parents provided the perfect shield for his extraordinary growth. Speaking of geniuses, Xiao Chen was not the only extraordinary child born into this mutated world. Across the land, other prodigies had begun to emerge. He saw the news spread of a remarkable boy from an ancient martial arts family in the capital city. Gifted with innate divine strength, he stunned everyone by lifting a 20-kilogram dumbbell with a single hand at only 2 years of age. Xiao Chen's mother looked at her son with pride glowing in her eyes. In her heart, she was certain that he was just as extraordinary as any child from the elite martial families. No matter how great those so-called prodigies might be, she believed Xiao Chen would never fall behind them in the future. Xiao Chen's eyes sparkled as he looked at his mother, admiration filling his tiny face. To him, she was a woman with impeccable judgment, someone who always believed in his potential. Yet even with her confidence, a quiet thought lingered in the boy's heart. He couldn't help but wonder if, when he turned 2, he would truly be able to lift 20 kilograms as easily as that prodigy from the capital. By the time Xiao Chen reached the age of 2, his growth had already surpassed ordinary limits. Thanks to the mysterious skill known as use in advance, the child who once wondered about his strength could now lift a 20-kilogram weight with a single hand, as if it were nothing. Though he had managed to stay low-key until now, his abilities were beginning to shine through, marking him as a prodigy destined to stand out in this mutated world. Just as Xiao Chen was testing his strength in the storage room, a loud voice suddenly called out from outside. Shen Qinghan, affectionately known as Shen Qinghan, had arrived and was eagerly looking for him, shouting that she had come to play. The unexpected call startled the boy so much that he nearly dropped the heavy weight he had been holding. Xiao Chen walked out of the storage room slowly, brushing the dust from his shoulder. His face carried a calm and indifferent look, as if nothing unusual had just happened, hiding the fact that he had been secretly training inside. As Xiao Chen opened the door and stepped outside, standing before him was Shen Qinghan, now 2 years old, holding a tart in her small hands. Her words came out in a childish tone, still unclear and baby-like, as she expressed her desire to eat it. Zichen, calm and composed for his age, simply responded by letting her have it. Compared to him, Qinghan's speech and mannerisms showed just how much she was still like an ordinary toddler. Because of the large gap in their mental maturity, Xiao Chen and Shen Qinghan didn't truly play together. Qinghan spent most of her time eating and sleeping, while Zichen devoted every spare moment to his training. Still, the two stayed close. Qinghan often clung to him, and in Zichen's eyes, her small frame made her the perfect size to act as a weighted vest, turning even her naps into part of his training routine. However, this so-called weighted vest came with one small problem. While Shen Qinghan rested on his back during training, Xiao Chen felt an uncomfortable warmth spread. His so-called weighted vest occasionally leaked, leaving him helpless in the most unexpected ways. By the time Xiao Chen reached the age of 3, his strength had grown to astonishing levels. With just one hand, he could now lift a solid 40 kilograms with ease, an extraordinary feat for a child so young. He saw the news about a 4-year-old prodigy who could lift a 30-kilogram dumbbell with one hand, shocking everyone with his talent. Yet, as Xiao Chen quietly watched the report, he knew the truth. He was already stronger than that prodigy had ever been at the same age. Xiao Chen's status revealed that, at the age of 3, he was still classified as Ordinary Tier 1, with his unique attribute being Use and Advance. Despite his overwhelming strength, he couldn't help but wonder, what exactly did an Ordinary Tier 2 represent? Could it mean surpassing the very limits of humanity? With curiosity filling his young mind, Xiao Chen stepped outside his home for the very first time. What greeted him was a bustling world unlike anything he had ever imagined. Towering skyscrapers, strange beastmen walking among humans, and robots soaring through the skies. To him, these figures could only be the gene fusers and cyborgs he had heard about. The very first destination Xiao Chen chose was the library. Since his parents rarely allowed him to use electronic devices, he knew the library would be the best place to uncover the answers to the many questions swirling in his mind. While his parents pointed him toward the children's section, Xiao Chen had no interest in simple picture books. With determined steps, he rushed deeper into the library, eager to find the knowledge he truly sought. Shen Qinghan, clutching her snacks, hurried after him, calling out for him to wait. While the adults wondered why Xiao Chen was so fascinated by such advanced books, they brushed it off as the work of his genius genes. Even when Shen Qinghan offered him cookies, he politely declined, choosing instead to bury himself in the pages before him. Reading was what he truly wanted, and nothing could distract him from it. Through his reading, Xiao Chen began to piece together a clearer picture of how the mutated world truly functioned. From the records inscribed on ancient stone tablets discovered in mysterious ruins, he learned that all life in this world was classified into 6 biological levels: ordinary, advanced, rare, epic, legendary, and mythical. But that was not all. Each level was further split into 9 tiers. Ordinary humans existed at Ordinary Tier 1, the very lowest rung. Compared to those higher beings, humans at that stage were nothing more than ants. Realizing the dangers of the world, Xiao Chen knew he had to accelerate his training while keeping a low profile. Otherwise, survival would be impossible. Just then, the system issued him a new quest. By reading, he could increase his spirit, comprehension, and knowledge. If he managed to read a cumulative 100 million characters, he would unlock the rare biological attribute, the celestial root of wisdom. From that moment onward, Xiao Chen understood that he could now cultivate not only his body, but also sharpen his mind. By the time Xiao Chen reached the age of 4, his routine was firmly set. Day after day, he balanced both reading and physical training without pause. The system rewarded his diligence. Each book he read increased his spirit, comprehension, and knowledge. Slowly but surely, the number of characters he had read climbed closer toward the monumental goal of 100 million. Through perseverance, he continued to sharpen both his mind and body, never allowing himself to slack off. At the age of 4, Xiao Chen began a new chapter of his life, kindergarten. Hand in hand with Shen Qinghan, he stepped through the school gates, guided by their homeroom teacher, Miss Jiang Mei. His parents watched from behind, their eyes filled with warmth and pride as they sent him off on this first step into the wider world of learning and growth. Not long after beginning kindergarten, Xiao Chen achieved a major breakthrough. He advanced to Ordinary Tier 2. At just 4 years old, he could lift an 80-kilogram weight with a single hand. His physical abilities grew astonishingly. His standing high jump reached 1.2 meters, and he could sprint 100 meters in under 11 seconds. These abilities were remarkable, stats that would have been outstanding even for a fully grown adult, yet here they belonged to a kindergartner. As the old saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. Xiao Chen was beginning to understand just how true those words were. In kindergarten, little Shen Qinghan often faced trouble. Because she still wet her pants at times, the other children mocked her, surrounding her with taunts and laughter. Tears welled in her eyes as she sat on the floor while their cruel voices rang out. Seeing Shen Qinghan being bullied, Xiao Chen's anger flared. How could he possibly stand by and do nothing? Without hesitation, he stepped forward, his small frame carrying a strength far beyond his years as he leapt into action. In that moment, Xiao Chen unleashed his presence, a powerful aura bursting forth from his small body. With fierce determination, he declared to everyone present that anyone who dared to bully Shen Qinghan would face his wrath, even threatening, in his childish yet intimidating way, to pee on their beds every single day. The bullies, once arrogant, now trembled at his words, their faces twisting in fear. Some cried out for their parents, others begged to go home, and a few even swore they would never come back to kindergarten again. In the middle of it all stood Shen Qinghan, wide-eyed and stunned, as the children who had mocked her moments ago scattered in fear. Xiao Chen's overwhelming presence had shaken the entire classroom. The children were so frightened that a new achievement suddenly appeared before him. He had unlocked the title Kindergarten Kid King, a reward for making all his classmates fear and respect him. It was part of a greater quest, to dominate the 9 years of compulsory education. The path ahead showed more titles waiting to be claimed: elementary school top dog and middle school overlord. Zichen could hardly believe it. One simple shout had already triggered a brand new quest, even before he finished the last one. Xiao Chen stood proudly, the title Kindergarten Kid King shining brightly above him. He had just discovered something important. He wasn't limited to one quest at a time. He could work on multiple quests simultaneously. To him, this was excellent news. It meant more opportunities, faster growth, and greater achievements waiting just ahead. Half a year later, Xiao Chen achieved what seemed impossible. He completed the massive reading quest, having read a cumulative total of 100 million characters. As a reward, he gained the Celestial Root of Wisdom, an extraordinary attribute that granted him an eidetic memory. From that moment on, his learning ability soared to the absolute peak of what a human could reach. Time passed quickly, and before long, Xiao Chen and his classmates had grown to nearly 7 years old. It was a special moment, the day of their kindergarten graduation ceremony. Dressed neatly in caps and gowns, they stood together for photos, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next stage of their young lives. During the vacation before elementary school began, Xiao Chen did not waste a single day. While others rested, he pushed himself harder, continuing to train his body and sharpen his abilities. Bit by bit, he grew stronger, determined to step into the next stage of life far beyond ordinary limits. Xiao Chen's training paid off in remarkable ways. This time, his standing jump soared past 2 meters, a feat far beyond the ability of most adults. Even more astonishing, he finally managed to break the 8-second mark in the 100-meter dash, proving just how much his strength and speed had advanced. Alongside his physical progress, the Celestial Root of Wisdom gave him another advantage. In his spare time, he had already completed most of the elementary school curriculum on his own. With both body and mind advancing rapidly, he looked forward to the day he could unlock the title of elementary school top dog. At last, the day arrived. Xiao Chen stepped into Shanghai City Sunshine Elementary School, marking the beginning of a brand new chapter in his life. His kindergarten days were behind him. Now, his elementary school journey had officially begun. Since Xiao Chen had already begun self-studying middle and high school material, the challenges of elementary school competitions were nothing more than child's play to him. Winning awards came easily, but trophies were not his real goal. What truly mattered was unlocking the title of elementary school top dog as quickly as possible. On stage, Zichen stood proudly in first place at the National Elementary School Academic Competition, while cheers and applause filled the hall. From the audience, teachers praised him with shining eyes, already counting on him to dominate the next event. At school, Xiao Chen made good use of his free time. Whenever he had the chance, he gave Shen Qinghan private tutoring sessions, patiently guiding her through her lessons. Though she often struggled and stumbled over words, he encouraged her gently, pushing her to try again until she improved bit by bit. Shen Qinghan wasn't exceptionally talented, but her obedience and diligence made all the difference. After just one semester, her efforts paid off. Her grades had already risen to second place in the class, and as for first place, that position belonged to Xiao Chen himself. To unlock his next title more quickly, Xiao Chen didn't just bury himself in books, he also threw himself into every event at the school sports meet, shattering one record after another with ease. It seemed like his elementary school life would continue smoothly, filled with studying, victories, and steady progress. But just when he thought things would remain peaceful, everything changed, because a special transfer student suddenly appeared in his class. One day, the teacher stood before the class and announced the arrival of a new transfer student. But this wasn't just any newcomer. There was something different about her, and the reason Xiao Chen described her as special was about to be revealed. She stepped quietly into the classroom, her silver blue hair catching the light, her presence both elegant and mysterious. But Xiao Chen immediately noticed something unusual. There was a faint aura surrounding her, an aura that clearly did not belong to a human. As the new transfer student walked into the classroom, her long silver hair glimmered under the lights like snowflakes in winter. The moment she stepped inside, every student turned to look at her, surprised by her beauty and calm presence. As she made her way to her seat, Qinghan whispered excitedly to Xiao Chen, saying that the new girl's hair was as beautiful as falling snow. However, Xiao Chen, sitting near the back, didn't reply to her comment. He wasn't in the mood to chat. Instead, his attention was fixed on the girl, Bai Shui. Something about her felt strange. Her aura didn't seem human. He couldn't help but wonder why. Thoughts ran through his mind. Could she be a gene fuser, or perhaps a descendant of one? For the past few days, Bai Shui had remained completely silent. She didn't talk to anyone and always stayed in her seat. As soon as class ended, she would rest her head on the desk, motionless, as if she had no energy left. She hardly ever left her spot, not even to go to the restroom. At first, everyone in class was curious about her. They wondered who she was and why she acted so distant. But as days passed, their curiosity slowly faded. People stopped paying attention, and the classroom went back to its usual calm. However, after more than a month, that quiet was broken once again. During that time, something strange started happening. Bai Shui began releasing a strange white liquid from her body. No one could understand what it was. The substance had an unpleasant smell, and no one knew where it came from or what it meant. It only added to the mystery surrounding her. As the strange white liquid continued to appear on Bai Shui's body, her classmates began to notice. Confused and disgusted, some of them pointed and whispered among themselves. They commented on the bad smell and mocked her, not understanding what was really happening. One boy stepped forward with a cruel grin, pretending to be kind. He poured water over Bai Shui's head, saying it would help her clean up. The cold liquid ran down her hair and face, soaking her completely. She trembled, unable to speak, her expression filled with pain and confusion. Laughter spread through the classroom as the others watched. Bai Shui gripped the desk tightly, tears mixing with the water dripping from her face. For the first time she looked fragile, like someone lost and hurting. From his seat, Xiao Chen watched silently, frowning as he tried to understand. He had always thought Bai Shui was dangerous, someone with power beyond human. But seeing her cry, he realized there was something deeper, something broken. Beside him, Shen Qinghan looked worried. She gently asked if they could help Bai Shui, unable to watch any longer. Xiao Chen finally stood up, his expression firm. He agreed to help, realizing that Bai Shui wasn't the threat he once thought she was. Whatever strange power she might have, right now, she looked like nothing more than a frightened girl being bullied. With determined steps, he walked toward the group, his presence immediately silencing their laughter. The bullies froze as Xiao Chen's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. He called out the boy who had poured water on Bai Shui, ordering him to clean her desk. The boy, startled and pale, quickly obeyed. His earlier arrogance vanished as fear took over. Trembling, he nodded and rushed to wipe away the mess, too scared to even look at Xiao Chen. The boy who had mocked Bai Shui earlier quickly started cleaning her desk, his hands trembling as he wiped away the spilled water. Fear filled his eyes as he thought about Xiao Chen, the student known for both his brains and his strength. Everyone at school, even the older students, knew better than to cross him. It was safer to just do what he said. Xiao Chen, standing tall beside Bai Shui, glared at the rest of the class. His voice echoed through the room as he ordered everyone who had bullied her to come forward and apologize. The bullies hesitated for only a moment before rushing over, bowing their heads in shame. One by one they admitted their mistakes. They apologized to Bai Shui, their voices trembling, asking her to forgive them and promising never to treat her that way again. Bai Shui sat silently, her eyes still red from crying. Shen Qinghan gently placed her hands on Bai Shui's shoulders, offering quiet comfort. Behind them, Xiao Chen watched with a serious expression, making sure no one would ever hurt her again. Tears still lingered in Bai Shui's eyes as she looked up at Xiao Chen and Shen Qinghan. Her voice trembled, filled with gratitude as she softly thanked them for standing up for her. Shen Qinghan smiled gently, placing a reassuring hand on Bai Shui's shoulder. She told her not to worry about it, reminding her that classmates should always look out for one another. Her words carried a kindness that made Bai Shui's eyes well up once more, this time from relief. From that day onward, Shen Qinghan began to make an effort to befriend the quiet, white-haired girl. Whether it was during class breaks or lunchtime, she always tried to include Bai Shui, and Xiao Chen often found himself joining them. Whenever Shen Qinghan brought a snack, she made sure to share it with Bai Shui first, treating her like a true friend. Slowly, the cold and lonely atmosphere around Bai Shui began to fade. For the first time, she wasn't sitting alone. She was smiling, surrounded by people who finally saw her as one of their own. As the three of them sat together under the shade of the trees, Bai Shui lowered her gaze and spoke softly. There was a faint smile on her face, but her voice trembled with uncertainty. She asked if they were ever disgusted by her. by the strange smell and the odd aura that always seemed to surround her. Then, with a heavy heart, she began to open up. She explained that ever since she was little, people had avoided her. Everyone around her treated her like an outcast, whispering behind her back or glaring in silence. The loneliness had followed her for as long as she could remember, until she stopped expecting kindness from anyone. Now, for the first time, she had people sitting beside her, people who didn't run away. The feeling was so warm, so unfamiliar, that it almost felt like a dream. Her voice shook as she admitted that she couldn't believe any of it was real. But Shenqinghan smiled gently and told her it wasn't a dream. She said she understood what Bai Shui was feeling because she had once been in a similar place, alone and misunderstood. She promised that she would never be disgusted by her, no matter what. Her eyes softened as she declared with confidence that they would be friends forever. Her cheerful voice carried warmth and certainty, and Xiao Chen stood beside her, nodding in quiet agreement. Bai Shui's eyes widened at their words. For a moment, she couldn't move. Then, overwhelmed by emotion, she stepped forward and hugged Shen Qinghan tightly. Her body trembled as she buried her face into her friend's shoulder, tears streaming down her cheeks. All the pain and loneliness she had carried for years seemed to melt away in that single embrace. For the first time, she felt what it meant to belong, to be accepted without judgment. Unable to hold back her feelings, Bai Shui began to cry harder, her voice shaking as she thanked them again and again. Her tears sparkled in the light, not from sorrow, but from the happiness she had thought she would never find. With a gentle smile, Bai Shui reached for the small necklace around her neck. She looked at Shen Qinghan and Xiao Chen, her eyes filled with gratitude. She told them that they had always shared their snacks with her and treated her with kindness when no one else would. Taking a deep breath, she said she wanted to give them something in return. Slowly, she held out her hands and revealed a small charm, a pair of beast fangs tied together with a thin cord. She explained that it was a birthday gift from her mother, something very precious to her. But now, she wanted them to have it, hoping they would like it. More than anything, she wished they could remain friends forever. Shen Qinghan and Xiao Chen were touched by her sincerity. As the sunlight filtered through the trees, Shen Qinghan reached out and gently accepted the gift, promising with a bright smile that they truly would be friends forever. Under the golden sky, the three of them stood together, laughter echoing through the schoolyard. Their hands were joined, their hearts light, a promise of friendship sealed in the warmth of that glowing afternoon. Just when Shen Qinghan believed their friendship would last forever, something unexpected happened. One morning, she heard the shocking news. Bai Shui had transferred out of the school. Stunned, Shen Qinghan's voice trembled as she asked if it was true. Xiao Chen nodded quietly, his eyes heavy with disbelief. He told her that he had seen Bai Shui in the principal's office with his own eyes, signing her withdrawal papers. From behind the door, Xiao Chen had watched as Bai Shui stood beside a tall man in a black suit with mechanical arms. Her posture was calm, but there was a sadness in her eyes as she thanked the principal for his help. The man beside her promised that Bai Shui's records would remain confidential and that everything had been taken care of. As Xiao Chen stepped away, he realized something. Bai Shui's identity wasn't as simple as it had seemed. She had always carried an air of mystery, and now it was clear that her past held secrets she had never spoken about. From that day on, they never saw Bai Shui again. Her seat remained empty, her laughter just a memory. Looking back, Xiao Chen thought that maybe she was never meant to stay. Perhaps she was just someone who had passed through their childhood, leaving behind warmth that would never fade. After Bai Shui's sudden departure, life slowly returned to normal. But what happened afterward soon drew Xiao Chen's full attention. One quiet evening, he stood behind his mother, gently massaging her shoulders. He asked if the pressure felt right, and she smiled with relief. She told him it was perfect. After spending the whole day typing her novel, her shoulders were sore, and his massage made her feel much better. Xiao Chen had recently learned professional massage techniques thanks to the enhancement from his celestial root of wisdom. He hadn't expected such a small skill to be this helpful. Just then, the TV caught their attention. A news report began, announcing exciting developments. The reporter spoke with enthusiasm about another incredible achievement by the Kyoto prodigy, a 10-year-old boy who had already completed a fusion with aberrant beast genes. Xiao Chen's eyes widened in recognition. His voice lowered as he whispered to himself, realizing who it was. The boy on the screen, the prodigy, had already begun gene fusion. As the news continued playing, Xiao Chen's father walked in, drying his hair with a towel. He frowned at the TV and complained that the Kyoto prodigy was always being shown on every channel. With a hint of annoyance, he wondered if they were trying to turn the boy into some kind of celebrity influencer. His wife responded calmly, explaining that the boy came from a 1,000-year-old martial arts family in Kyoto, a lineage famous for its advanced gene fusion research. But she couldn't help frowning, saying it still didn't feel right to experiment on one's own child like that. Her husband sighed and reminded her that for martial arts families, the clan's honor always came before the individual. That, he said, was how such families had survived for generations. Rolling her eyes, she muttered that he always acted like he knew everything. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen stood quietly, deep in thought. The Kyoto prodigy, before his fusion, could only lift 100 kilograms with one hand. But after undergoing gene fusion, he could lift 500, a five-fold increase in strength. Xiao Chen clenched his fist as he thought about it. He was only 8 years old and could already lift 300 kilograms with one hand, and that was without any fusion at all. Realizing this, a confident smile spread across his face. Compared to that so-called prodigy, his potential was even greater. After doing his calculations, Xiao Chen felt sure about his future. Confidence filled his heart, until the television flashed with a breaking news alert. The cheerful tone from before was gone, replaced by the grim voice of a reporter. A serious aberrant beast attack had occurred in a neighboring country. The screen showed scenes of devastation, buildings in ruins, smoke rising, and explosions echoing through the city. According to eyewitness reports, the monsters responsible were enormous aberrant rats. The footage displayed horrifying creatures tearing through the streets, their claws sharp, their bodies twisted, their eyes glowing with madness. One of the beasts had trapped a terrified woman, its jaws opening wide as she screamed desperately for help. But before her plea could reach anyone, the monster lunged forward, its fangs closing in with a deafening snap, and the screen went dark. The news anchor's voice continued, now filled with grim urgency. Investigations revealed that the recent aberrant rat attack had been orchestrated by a secret group, heretics who had been stirring chaos from the shadows. Behind the scenes, they manipulated events and unleashed monsters to spread terror. A government official appeared on screen, standing before a crowd of reporters. Surrounded by flashing cameras, he called upon all nations to join forces with Sakura country to eliminate these heretics once and for all. The broadcast then explained that this so-called cult was an anti-human organization created by traitors who had betrayed humanity. For their own selfish desires, they had allied themselves with the aberrant beasts, becoming their servants and helping them launch attacks across the world. Watching the news, Xiao Chen stayed calm, his parents visibly shaken behind him. He thought to himself that he was fortunate to be born in a strong and stable country, a place where he could quietly grow stronger without being dragged into chaos. But just as that thought crossed his mind, a loud sonic boom thundered outside his window. The sound shook the walls, startling his parents. Xiao Chen's eyes widened. Without hesitation, he rushed toward the window, clutching his sleeve tightly as he prepared to see what awaited outside. When Xiao Chen looked outside, his eyes widened in surprise. The night sky was filled with bright blue trails. Dozens of official cyborgs were flying past his window at high speed. Their metallic wings glowed as they cut through the air, heading toward the horizon. Confusion filled his mind. Why were so many government cyborgs out at this hour? Something serious must have happened. Watching the sky, he clenched his fists slightly, hoping that whatever it was, it wouldn't bring disaster to their city. By the next morning, the sky was clear again, the sun shining warmly over the streets. Life seemed to return to normal. Later that day, as Xiao Chen got ready for school, he met Shen Qinghan at their usual meeting spot. She ran toward him, slightly out of breath, apologizing for being late. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and gestured for them to hurry before they missed class. Just as they were about to leave, something unusual caught his attention. A faint blue light flickered from the pendant hanging around Shen Qinghan's neck. Xiao Chen's eyes widened as he stepped closer, realizing that it was her beast fang that was glowing softly with an otherworldly light. Shen Qinghan followed his gaze and gasped when she saw it too. The glow pulsed rhythmically, as if reacting to something unseen. Neither of them understood what was happening. Xiao Chen's gaze sharpened as realization struck him. The object wasn't ordinary. It seemed to carry a strange power, one that didn't belong to humans. In that moment, he understood why he had sensed an unfamiliar aura from Shen Qinghan earlier. The energy wasn't hers. It came from the fang itself, the remnant of an aberrant beast. The glow faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving only silence behind. The two exchanged uncertain looks, unsure of what the phenomenon meant. It had lasted only for a moment, so neither thought too deeply about it. Yet, as they walked through the bustling city streets, Xiao Chen couldn't shake a growing unease. Between the sudden appearance of cyborg patrols the previous night and the fang's strange reaction, a heavy feeling lingered in his chest. a warning that something ominous was drawing near. While the city around them moved as usual, with people chatting and vehicles passing by, Xiao Chen's thoughts drifted. His eyes occasionally darted upward, scanning the sky. Just then, as they turned a corner, a tall woman with long red hair leaned casually against a streetlight, her presence drawing attention. Her sharp eyes caught sight of the two young students walking side by side. A faint smile curved on her lips as she quietly observed them. "What adorable kids," she muttered under her breath, her tone light yet oddly amused. Neither Shenqing nor Xiao Chen paid much attention to her, but something about the woman's gaze felt unsettling. As Xiao Chen and Shenqing continued down the street, the tall woman's curious gaze followed them. With a faint smirk, she tilted her head and spoke softly, wondering aloud if the two might be siblings. Her voice carried a teasing tone, but her eyes seemed to study them carefully, as though searching for something deeper. Shenqing quickly turned around, waving her hands in embarrassment. She explained that they weren't siblings but childhood friends who had grown up together. Her cheerful voice filled the air as she proudly declared that they were also best friends. The woman's expression softened into a playful smile. A hint of longing flickered behind her crimson eyes as she mentioned how envious she was of their bond. She mused quietly that she wished she had someone like that, a childhood friend who had stayed by her side. Then her gaze sharpened slightly. With a curious tone, she asked if the two of them were heading to school alone and where their parents might be. Though her words seemed casual, there was a subtle edge in her voice, one that made Xiao Chen uneasy, as if her question carried more meaning than it appeared. Shenqing's cheerful expression slowly faded when the woman asked about their parents. Her lips trembled slightly as she lowered her gaze, struggling to find the right words. A faint sadness flashed across her eyes as she began to speak, her voice soft and hesitant. She barely managed to say a few words before Xiao Chen reached out and gently grabbed her wrist. His tone was calm but firm as he stopped her from continuing. The air around them grew quiet for a moment, the tension hanging between the three of them. Without explaining further, Xiao Chen gave a polite nod and pulled Shenqing along, quickly steering her away from the woman. He told her they were running late and urged her to hurry. Shenqing, though still confused, nodded and followed his lead. As they walked away, the woman's gaze lingered on their backs, her expression unreadable. Later, as they entered the school grounds, Xiao Chen turned to Shenqing with a gentle but serious look. He reminded her not to answer personal questions from strangers so easily. She nodded quickly, promising to be more careful next time. The rest of the day passed quietly. By the time school ended, the golden light of sunset painted the sky, marking the close of another long day, though the uneasy feeling from that morning still lingered faintly in Xiao Chen's heart. As the sun began to set, the streets grew quiet, painted in soft shades of gold. Xiao Chen and Shenqing walked together through a narrow alley on their way home. The silence around them felt heavy, and even the wind seemed to have stopped. Shenqing clutched Xiao Chen's sleeve, her eyes darting nervously at the empty surroundings. She whispered that the alley felt strange, too quiet, almost eerie. Xiao Chen glanced around calmly and explained that the area was scheduled for demolition next week. Everyone had already moved away, which was why it seemed so deserted. His voice was steady, trying to ease her uneasiness, but deep inside, even he couldn't shake off the strange tension lingering in the air. Just then, the sound of heels clicking against the pavement echoed from ahead. A familiar, smooth voice followed, one that sent a chill down Xiao Chen's spine. From the shadows at the end of the alley, the red-haired woman stepped forward, her crimson eyes glinting under the fading light. With a sly smile, she greeted them, remarking that they were finally out of school. Her tone was casual, but there was something unsettling about the way she spoke, as though she had been waiting there all along. Lifting a small communication device to her lips, she murmured that there was no need for backup. She had already found the kids. Her lips curved into a knowing smile as she lowered her hand, her gaze locking onto Xiao Chen and Shenqing with quiet satisfaction. Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed the moment he saw the woman. His instincts confirmed what he feared. It was her again. He had purposely chosen a different route to avoid her, yet she still appeared before them. A wave of unease filled his chest as he realized she must have been following them all along. Shenqing clutched his arm tightly, sensing the tension in his expression. The woman, wearing a playful smile, leaned closer and tried to sound kind. She invited them to her place, claiming she had treats and games waiting. But before Xiao Chen could respond, a large man stepped out from the shadows behind her. He glanced at the woman with mild annoyance, muttering under his breath about how much nonsense she talked. Then, with a cold and impatient tone, he ordered that the children be knocked out and taken away quickly. Shen Qinghan froze in fear as the man stepped forward, his massive figure blocking their path. The cloth in his hand reeked of something chemical, enough to make anyone lose consciousness. Grinning wickedly, he shouted that he didn't have time to waste and needed to sell them for cash. The children's eyes widened as they realized the danger they were in. Xiao Chen quickly reached for Shen Qinghan's hand, his mind racing as he searched for a way to escape. The towering man charged forward with a menacing grin, waving a cloth soaked in chemicals. His heavy steps echoed through the empty alley, the ground trembling under his weight. Shen Qinghan froze in terror, but before she could react, Xiao Chen stepped in front of her, his eyes sharp and focused. A sudden surge of determination filled him. Without hesitation, he raised his hand, channeling every bit of strength in his body. In that instant, the air around him seemed to twist. A powerful force burst outward, creating shockwaves that cut through the silence. The man's expression changed from arrogance to disbelief as Xiao Chen's strike connected squarely with his chest. The impact sent him staggering backward, blood spraying from his mouth as his body was thrown across the alley. The ground cracked beneath him when he hit the wall, collapsing in a heap. The red-haired woman's confident smile vanished. Her eyes widened in shock as she watched her partner crumble before her. Xiao Chen bent down and picked up a brick from the ground, his expression tense as conflicting thoughts ran through his mind. He didn't want to resort to this, but the situation left him with no other choice. If those two woke up and revealed what had happened, his secret would be exposed. All his efforts to remain unnoticed and grow stronger would be wasted. The dim alley was silent except for the faint hum of the city beyond. Lin's gaze hardened as he looked at the unconscious bodies before him. Deep down, he hated the idea of taking another step toward violence, yet he knew hesitation could destroy everything he had worked for. Just as he took a step forward, a low rumble echoed beneath his feet. The ground began to shake violently, dust falling from nearby walls. Lin froze, startled, his eyes darting around the narrow street. Behind him, Shen Qinghan stumbled, clutching her backpack in fear. A deep rumble shook the ground as cracks spread across the alley. From the broken pavement, a terrifying creature emerged, a huge, deformed rat with long claws, sharp teeth, and several glowing eyes. Xiao Chen stood frozen, staring up at the monster in disbelief. He could hardly process what he was seeing. It looked like a rat, but far larger and more twisted than anything natural. Nearby, the red-haired woman lay injured and unable to move. The monstrous rat turned its head toward her and opened its massive jaws, revealing rows of razor-like teeth. Before she could react, it lunged forward and swallowed her whole. Blood splashed across the ground as the beast lifted its head, letting out a roar that echoed through the narrow streets. Xiao Chen's heart raced. He knew this was bad. The creature's many eyes shifted toward him and Shen Qinghan. Its heavy steps made the ground tremble as it moved closer. Shen Qinghan gasped, her face pale with fear. She pointed at the creature and cried out, asking what it was. Xiao Chen clenched his fists, knowing they were in serious danger. Xiao Chen held Shen Qinghan close as fear filled the air. He looked up at the towering creature and quickly explained that it was a giant aberrant rat, a terrifying monster, unlike anything they had seen before. Shen Qinghan trembled in his arms, her eyes wide with panic. Seeing how dangerous the situation was, Xiao Chen didn't hesitate. He picked her up and started running as fast as he could, determined to get her to safety. The ground shook behind them as the monster roared. Xiao Chen's mind raced. They had to escape before it caught them. Suddenly, a loud sound came from above. A figure in red armor descended from the sky at incredible speed. Her long golden hair flowed behind her, and mechanical wings spread out as she aimed straight for the beast. Xiao Chen stopped for a moment, stunned. He realized this must be one of the government cyborgs. Shen Qinghan, still shaken, looked up and asked in disbelief if that really was a cyborg. The cyborg flew through the sky at incredible speed, closing in on the giant aberrant rat before it could move another step. Her swift motion left shockwaves behind, and even Xiao Chen, watching from below, was amazed at how fast she was. Without hesitation, the cyborg raised her arm. A bright orange light began to gather at her palm as she calmly activated her weapon system. Energy beams glowed around her armor as she announced the process, charging complete. Her eyes locked onto the monstrous target below. In a clear, commanding voice, she called out the name of her attack, anesthetic smoke. In an instant, several glowing capsules shot out from her arm, spinning through the air like fiery meteors. They surrounded the giant rat before detonating all at once. A massive explosion erupted, shaking the entire alley. Flames burst outward, scattering debris in every direction. Xiao Chen quickly shielded Shen Qinghan as the shockwave roared past them. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and smoke filled the sky, marking the aftermath of the cyborg's devastating strike. a massive creature with dark skin and a terrifying maw emerged from the explosions, its roar shaking the air as flames burst around it. Its body glowed with violent energy, and lightning streaked across the sky. The monster's head turned slowly, drool dripping from its many sharp teeth. Its eyes gleamed with hunger and madness as it scanned its surroundings. In the next moment, a cyborg woman in red mechanical armor appeared before the beast. Her golden hair flowed behind her as she faced the towering creature without fear. Crimson lightning crackled around her arm as she charged forward. Meanwhile, Xiaochen sat on the couch, watching the screen with a thoughtful look. He analyzed what he saw, thinking that the female cyborg's level probably wasn't very high. He remembered how he had to weaken the aberrant rat using tranquilizer darts first, and even then, it had taken 7 minutes of close combat to finish it off. Xiaochen thought about how difficult giant aberrant rats were to deal with. He knew that adult ones could grow over 3 meters long, and their biological level could reach the ordinary 5th tier. As he reflected on this, his expression remained calm but serious, clearly analyzing the strength of these creatures. Xiaochen felt relieved that he had managed to escape safely the day before. Thinking about the danger he faced, he realized that he needed to increase his training intensity. Determined, he began lifting heavy weights, focusing on strengthening his body. Even though the threat of the aberrant rat still remained, life continued as usual. Soon after, Xiaochen and Shen Qinghan celebrated their 9th birthday together, surrounded by family and friends, smiling as they sat before a cake lit with candles. After making their birthday wishes, Xiaochen and Shen Qinghan exchanged gifts. Shen Qinghan blushed shyly as she handed her present to him, while Xiaochen smiled gently and patted her head, his expression soft and caring. Using his celestial root of wisdom, Xiaochen taught himself to carve a wooden hairpin in just one night as a gift for Shen Qinghan. When she received it, her eyes sparkled with joy as she smiled and said that the hairpin was so pretty and that she loved it. Just like that, time passed quickly, and Xiaochen and Shen Qinghan graduated from elementary school, moving on to middle school. A system notification appeared before him saying, "Dominate 9 years of compulsory education. Reward: obtain biological attribute, survival of the fittest." As they walked together with their backpacks, Xiaochen felt a spark of excitement. He thought about how close he was to unlocking the middle school overlord title, which would grant him the survival of the fittest attribute. During the school break, Xiaochen trained relentlessly to unlock the new title and improve his strength. He followed a high-intensity routine every single day without rest. With a massive boulder on his back, Xiaochen continued his training in the forest, determined to grow stronger. Just before school began, Xiaochen finally broke through and reached the ordinary 3rd tier in his biological level. His physical abilities improved greatly. He could now lift 700 kilograms with one hand, jump 4 meters high, and run 100 meters in just 6 seconds. As Xiaochen relaxed on the couch, he wondered what level the Kyoto prodigy had reached by now. Coincidentally, the night before school started, a news story about that same prodigy appeared on TV. He sat watching quietly, an apple in hand, his expression thoughtful. The news reported that the 14-year-old Kyoto prodigy, who had fused with giant ant genes, could now easily lift a 2,000-kilogram alloy block with one hand. Xiaochen analyzed calmly, noting that giant ant genes could boost strength by 4 to 8 times. Even if the prodigy's strength was multiplied 4-fold, his real power would equal a 400-kilogram one-handed lift. Xiaochen realized with quiet satisfaction that he was still stronger than him. Xiaochen smiled with anticipation, holding an apple in his hand. He thought to himself that if he ever got the chance to undergo gene fusion in the future, he couldn't wait to see how powerful he would become. Just like that, middle school officially began. Since Xiaochen was the city's top student in elementary school, the principals of all the best schools tried to recruit him. After receiving multiple offers, he finally accepted the invitation from Shanghai Middle School, on one condition, that Shen Qinghan could be placed in the same class as him. During new student registration, both the principal and Xiaochen's homeroom teacher personally came to welcome him. They told him they were counting on him to bring honor to the school. After exchanging a few polite words, Xiaochen made a quick excuse and left the office with Shen Qinghan by his side. Xiaochen had slipped away because Shanghai Middle School's athletic facilities were excellent. He and Shen Qinghan had already planned to play a game of badminton together before the school term officially began. Shen Qinghan smiled brightly and raised her racket, calling out to Xiaochen that it was time to start their game. A moment later, she swung with full force and shouted playfully, "Take this, fairy's curveball." As Shen Qinghan's powerful serve flew across the court, someone suddenly caught the shuttlecock mid-air. A tall upperclassman stepped forward with a smirk, holding his racket confidently. He looked at Xiao Chen and Shen Qinghan and said that this court was reserved for upperclassmen, implying that the two of them didn't belong there. The upperclassmen laughed as they surrounded Shen Qinghan. One of them said that the little junior could stay, and that a few of them could take turns sparring with her. Another added mockingly that if she didn't know how to play, they could give her some one-on-one lessons. Shen Qinghan stood her ground and replied firmly that even if they were upperclassmen, they still had to follow the rules. She and Xiao Chen were there first. Xiao Chen stepped forward, his expression turning cold as he gripped his racket tightly. He told the upperclassmen to back away from Shen Qinghan. With a calm but firm tone, he reminded them that he didn't need to explain the first come, first served rule, making it clear they were the ones in the wrong. The upperclassman smirked arrogantly and raised his racket. He said that he didn't care about any first come, first served rule. Even if the Jade Emperor himself had arrived before him, he was taking the court today no matter what. Xiao Chen's eyes sharpened as he tossed the shuttlecock into the air. From now on, he declared, leaping high with powerful force, my rules are the only rules. With that, he swung his racket down with explosive strength, sending the shuttlecock flying like a bolt of lightning. The upperclassman tried to block the shot, but the force behind Xiao Chen's strike was overwhelming. The shuttlecock smashed straight through his racket, shattering it to pieces. Shocked and terrified, the upperclassman stumbled back, his expression filled with disbelief. The upperclassmen stared in shock, sweat running down their faces. One of them gasped, wondering if Xiao Chen was even human after seeing his unbelievable speed. Another muttered that there was no way he could already be a gene fuser. He was far too young. The last one trembled, realizing that if the shot had been even slightly off, their leader's head might have been taken off completely. Terrified, the upperclassmen quickly bowed in apology. One of them shouted nervously that they understood the rules now and would leave immediately. Without another word, they turned and ran off the court, disappearing in a hurry. After that incident, word quickly spread around the school. From then on, no one ever dared to bully them again in middle school. Aside from the school being larger and having better facilities, life in middle school felt almost the same as it had been back in elementary school. Xiao Chen had already finished learning the entire middle school curriculum long ago. During class, he usually spent his time reading any books that caught his interest instead of paying attention to the lessons. After finishing his nightly workouts, Xiao Chen spent his time online learning different kinds of new skills. Thanks to his celestial root of wisdom, he gradually picked up abilities like cooking, photography, driving, swimming, wilderness survival, and many other athletic skills. To earn the title of Middle School Overlord as quickly as possible, Xiao Chen made sure to rank first in every subject across the entire school. He also represented the school in several national middle school competitions, winning gold, silver, and bronze medals in subjects like math, physics, chemistry, and computer programming. He purposely didn't take first place in everything, just to keep a low profile. Time passed quickly, and before he knew it, a semester had gone by. Although Xiao Chen still hadn't unlocked the Middle School Overlord title, his outstanding performance drew a lot of attention. Because of it, he ended up gaining quite a few fangirls who admired him from afar. Xiao Chen wasn't interested in paying attention to the fangirls at all. Instead, he spent his time tutoring Shen Qinghan and putting all his focus on preparing for the upcoming school sports festival. Xiao Chen thought that if he dominated the school's sports festival, it might finally be enough to unlock the Middle School Overlord title. For this festival, he only entered 3 events: shot put, high jump, and sprinting. When he threw the shot put, it flew an incredible distance, landing at 201 meters, shocking everyone watching. These 3 main events, shot put, high jump, and sprinting, represented strength, jumping ability, and speed. Xiao Chen performed each one with incredible precision and power, leaving everyone around him in awe. Dominating these 3 categories would mean complete control over all the athletic events. With unmatched speed and focus, Xiao Chen sprinted ahead, determined to prove his strength and secure victory. Even though Xiao Chen held back during the competition to avoid standing out too much, it was still easy for him to take first place. Sitting beside Shen Qinghan afterward, he accepted his medals with a calm smile while she looked at him proudly. At that moment, Xiao Chen suddenly felt a strange and powerful energy surge through his body. It was as if a new strength had awakened within him, filling him with light and intensity. A glowing blue light surrounded Xiao Chen as a system message appeared before him. It declared that his academic and athletic achievements had surpassed everyone in the school, officially granting him the title Middle School Overlord. With this, all his previous titles, kindergarten kid king, elementary school top dog, and now middle school overlord, were complete. He had achieved the milestone of dominating 9 years of compulsory education and gained a new biological attribute, survival of the fittest. The long-awaited title had finally unlocked. The next day, as Xiao Chen walked through the school gates, the system's words echoed in his mind. If one was a predator, their life essence stood above all, allowing them to devour the essence of others to evolve. He pondered quietly, wondering what life essence truly meant. Behind him, Shen Qinghan hurried to catch up, calling out, "Xiao Chen, wait for me." As they walked side by side under the morning sun, Xiao Chen turned to Shen Qinghan and asked if he could borrow her beast fang for a moment. Shen Qinghan gently placed the beast fang in his hand, saying that he could take it. As soon as Xiao Chen touched the beast fang, his eyes widened in surprise. A surge of dark energy burst from his hand as the system's message appeared. He had devoured a trace of the abyssal giant butterfly's life essence. The guidebook progress showed 1%, and it stated that once it reached 100, he could evolve to gain the beast's traits or abilities. Looking at the glowing fang in disbelief, Xiao Chen realized that the item wasn't what he had thought. It was actually a butterfly's tooth. Later that night, Xiao Chen sat in front of his computer, the room lit only by the glow of the screen. Now that he knew the name of the exotic beast, he wondered if he could find any information about it online. With that thought, he began typing quickly, searching for clues about the abyssal giant butterfly. After searching online for a while, Xiao Chen stared at the screen in disbelief. The results showed nothing. There was no record or mention of the abyssal giant butterfly anywhere. He leaned back slightly, puzzled, wondering how something so powerful could be completely unknown. Seeing that there was no information online, Xiao Chen sighed softly. Realizing he would get no help from the internet, he decided that he would have to study this mysterious beast on his own. While checking through his things, Xiao Chen finally found another beast fang tucked away in his bag. He felt relieved, remembering that Bai Shui had given him 2 of them back then. Holding the second beast fang tightly, Xiao Chen felt a surge of energy flow through his body once again. The system message appeared before him. He had devoured another trace of the abyssal giant butterfly's life essence. The guidebook's progress increased to 2%, and the faint glow of purple light surrounded him as his power continued to grow. After seeing the progress bar stop at only 2%, Xiao Chen frowned slightly. It seemed there wasn't much life essence left within the beast bone. He realized he would need to find another way to fully unlock the power hidden inside it. The next day after school, Xiao Chen began a new routine to strengthen his training. Each day, he biked Shen Qinghan to and from school, using it as both exercise and preparation. He thought that if they ever ran into another giant mutant rat, he'd be able to get her to safety quickly. As Xiao Chen was riding his bike with Shen Qinghan sitting behind him, a loud voice suddenly called out his name. Startled, he looked up to see a tall man approaching. The man introduced himself as Coach Guo from the school's martial arts team, saying that Xiao Chen's performance at the school sports meet had been the best in the school's history. Coach Guo smiled brightly, clenching his fists with excitement. With great enthusiasm, he told Xiao Chen that he wanted to invite him to join the school's martial arts team. Coach Guo eagerly praised Xiao Chen, saying his athletic talent even surpassed his academic skills, and urged him to join the martial arts team. Not wanting to pressure him too much, he quickly added that Xiao Chen could learn more about the team first before making his decision. Coach Guo spoke so quickly that Xiao Chen didn't even have the chance to refuse. Smiling warmly, the coach told him that the martial arts team was based in room C of the school gym, and that if he was free the next day, he should stop by. He would be waiting. As the sun rose over the city, a new day began. Inside his room, Xiao Chen examined the crushed cockroach and mosquito in his hand. He noticed that killing them hadn't triggered his predator's law skill. From this, he concluded that only powerful exotic beasts possessed enough life essence to be devoured. To test his theory, Xiao Chen decided to visit a supermarket that sold beast meat. Riding his bike with Shen Qinghan sitting behind him, he made his way through the city streets. Before long, they arrived at a large supermarket located in the downtown area. Inside the supermarket, Xiao Chen saw a wide variety of beast meat neatly arranged on display. However, all of it was sealed in packages. He realized that without physically touching the meat, he wouldn't be able to test his theory. As Xiao Chen looked around the market, a loud voice called out, advertising fresh-cut beast meat. His eyes immediately lit up when he spotted a butcher slicing raw beast meat at a nearby counter. Excited, he realized this was his chance to test his theory on unprocessed beast flesh. Xiao Chen told Shen Qinghan to wait where she was while he went ahead to check the fresh meat counter. Shen Qinghan looked surprised. Xiao Chen knew Shen Qinghan was probably confused, but he didn't stop to explain. He was too focused on confirming his theory as quickly as possible. With determination in his eyes, he rushed straight toward the counter filled with freshly cut beast meat. Xiao Chen reached out toward the freshly cut beast meat, his hand trembling with anticipation. The truth he sought was right before his eyes. The moment his fingers touched the meat, a surge of bright energy burst out, wrapping around his hand. As he felt the powerful flow of vitality, he confirmed his suspicion. Beast meat truly contained a strong surge of life essence. Shen Qinghan looked at Xiao Chen with confusion as he stood there grinning and holding a piece of meat. She asked him if he was all right and wondered why he looked so thrilled just from touching raw meat. She nervously asked him how it felt and whether beast meat was any different from regular meat. Xiao Chen smiled and said it didn't feel too different, just a bit fresher than normal meat. He jokingly asked Shen Qinghan if she wanted to touch it too. Flustered, Shen Qinghan quickly waved her hands and replied that it was fine. Since he had already touched it, that was more than enough. Xiao Chen smiled and said that since they were already there, he might as well buy some beast meat to test it at home. Shen Qinghan looked surprised and called out in confusion, not expecting him to take things that far. Xiao Chen wasn't surprised by Shen Qinghan's reaction. He knew beast meat was expensive. As he looked at the price tags, 2,000 yen per jin and 998 yen per jin for ghost shadow squid, he realized just how costly it really was. Xiao Chen noticed that even the cheapest option, the ghost shadow squid, cost nearly 1,000 yuan per jin. After thinking for a moment, he decided with a smile to go with that one and picked it up confidently. Shen Qinghan looked panicked and tried to stop him. She told Xiao Chen that the meat was too expensive and suggested he ask Aunt Xin for permission before buying it. Xiao Chen's mother smiled warmly as she cooked and suggested buying a few more jins of beast meat so Shen Qinghan's family could try it too. She said she would transfer the money through WeChat. Hearing that, Xiao Chen realized that his mother was planning to prepare a grand beast meat feast for both families. Xiao Chen thought about it carefully. Other than sharing the meat, he also wanted to test something. He suspected that directly absorbing the life essence from beast meat might cause it to spoil instantly. It was still just a theory, so he planned to confirm it with the meat they brought home. At the counter, the cashier told him the price, saying that 3 ghost shadow squids cost a total of 2,994 yen. The cashier smiled and thanked them for their purchase, asking them to come again. As Xiao Chen and Shen Qinghan walked out of the store, Xiao Chen looked down at the bag in his hand and sighed softly. Thinking about how expensive it was, he wondered when they would ever be able to afford something like that again. By the time they finished buying the meat, it was already past 9 at night. Since things had been a bit chaotic in the city lately, they decided not to stay out any longer and went straight home for safety. Even on the way back,